Prince De Rola often gets mentioned in various Rolling Stones biographies as a mysterious young aristocrat who got busted with Brian Jones. Apart from the fact that he and Brian were close friends, little is known about him. A fascinating figure in the 1960s as an actor both in Europe and Hollywood, musician, fashion trendsetter, lover of some of the most beautiful women of the time, and friends with a veritable who's who of pop icons. To this day, he remains a man of wealth and taste.
I first met the band, I've been aware of them, of course, because they had some singles and EPs and things like that, and their first album. And then, before they cut and released Out of Our Heads,
which was like the third album,
1965.
Yeah, it was like the third album. It was
Third
12 by 5, Rolling Stones. And, yeah.
Right, and so I had joined by then Vince Taylor's band. Now Vince Taylor was an amazing character. Vince Taylor was, was a visionary, was a very sexy sort of Gene Vincent type. I mean, Gene Vincent didn't look as good looking as Vince Taylor was devastatingly good looking, as a sort of black leather rocker, and was very athletic, and he did these amazing stage stunts. He would fly like he would do these dives and end up on the piano all in time, and lift up the piano and beat the and he had this sort of amazing movements, and the crowds went absolutely berserk with Vince Taylor at that time. We became friends in '61, and it was not until I came back from America and couldn't find anything interesting to do in the theatrical world. Vince Taylor said, you've always been into the music, why don't you join the band? So I ended up sort of composing this figure, I had a stripper girlfriend who was using in her act glitter, which had never been seen in rock and roll. So I started to wear glitter. So I walked on stage barefoot and did this whole sort of slightly crossover type thing, without any hint of homosexuality. It was more of a sort of showbiz sense. And I quickly became a crowd favorite. And so we ended up doing this triumphant tour of Spain, at the end of which the person who promoted and who kept all the money absconded with all the money, and we sent one by one, Vince and I sent the musicians for help to Barclay Records in Paris, because we had to do this gig with the Stones. And that friendship with the Rolling Stones began, as described in Bill Wyman's book, Stone Alone. This lifelong friendship began. Yeah, she hadn't met the Stones then. And in fact, that's one thing one can correct for history, is that it's completely erroneous. Even Anita doesn't remember it right, that she met Brian for the very first time that night when I took everybody to Castell's with François Hardy, Zouzou, you've heard of Zouzou?
Yes.
Well, Zouzou wrote a book and all that, was an incredibly cute-looking girl who was, she was the one that Brian picked to spend the night with, in fact. And Anita, Brian and I ended up taking them back to their hotel in a cab. They were staying on, I think, Boulevard des Capucines in some hotel. And when we got there, we were all out of our heads and we kind of tumbled out of this cab. There were these English girls, these fans, sleeping on the pavement, who got up with Instamatics and took. I always wondered what I wished, somebody, one of those pictures would come up of this haggard group, staggering out of this taxi, and these girls, never forgot, literally sleeping on the pavement. This was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and